Some members of Mm's family also joined them, and they all kept demanding for an explanation and the reason why Udo had changed his mind all of a sudden. Still, Udo gave no explanation and just kept saying that he was no longer interested in the marriage. On the day of the wedding ceremony, Udak told Mm's parents that he was okay with not seeing his bride till the dowry payment process is completed. Once upon a time, there lived a girl called MM. MM was from a family of 5, which consists of a father, mother, herself, and her 2 younger sisters. MM is the oldest child. MM is a definition of absolute beauty, apart from her physical beauty, which was undeniably obvious to even the blind. MM also has a good heart. Right from childhood, she cared for everyone around her and was willing and always offered help to everyone to the best of her ability. She was kind and respectful, and this made her win the hearts of the aged and elderly people in her village. "Mama, please let me help you carry your baskets," young MM would say whenever she sees any woman with baskets of groceries from the market. And even if they object, MM would insist until the person agrees. Other parents would use her as good examples for their own children. And so, when MM grew into a young adult and fully ripe for marriage, there was no doubt that she would get married very fast, as she was the perfect wife material by all standards according to everyone. My friend, you are very lucky. Every morning that you wake up, you should first give praises to God for blessing you with MM as your daughter, Mr. Akpan said to MM's father one evening. Mr. Akpan and MM's father are very good friends, so occasionally they visit each other and have a chat over some glass of palm wine. She has been blessed with so much physical beauty, as though she is a goddess herself, yet she is so meek, humble, and hardworking. Every man would want her as his wife and every parent as their daughter-in-law. Just watch and see. Since she is maturing and slowly becoming ripe for marriage, your compound will be filled with suitors every day soon, Mr. Akpan continued. How I wish I had a grown-up son. I would fight to have MM as my daughter-in-law, Mr. Akpan said with a sigh. Just like MM's father, Mr. Akpan also has 3 children, but his are 2 older daughters and a son who is only 13 years old and also the youngest. So, that is why Mr. Akpan wished his son was grown enough to marry MM. You are right, my friend. Trust me, you don't have to tell me. I am indeed grateful to God for blessing I and my wife with MM. And so, when those suitors start coming, I would give her to only the best suitor and one who would take care of her, MM's father replied. MM's father is a very wealthy man. He provided and gave his wife and children all they needed in luxury. So, he vowed that he would give his daughters to men who would take care of them and not deprive them of the basic good things of life. True to Mr. Akpan's words, suitors started coming to ask for MM's hand in marriage. As a matter of fact, the first suitor came 4 days after MM's father and Mr. Akpan had that discussion. Other suitors came thereafter, and finally, MM's father accepted one. MM also likes this one, and that was why her father accepted him. His name was Udo. Udo was a fine and wealthy young man. He was responsible too, and so was a good fit for MM. A day was fixed for the dowry payment and the marriage ceremony of MM and Udo. On the said day, MM's father's compound was filled with family members, friends, and well-wishers who had come to grace the occasion. Soon, Udo arrived with his people and the items for the dowry. However, as the ceremony began and Udo set his eyes on MM, he stood up and walked out angrily from the process. Everyone stood still, shocked at what Udo just did. Udo's father and older brother ran after him to find out why he had left the occasion in that manner. And that was when Udo said that he was no longer interested in marrying His father and brother asked to know the reason for the change of mind, but Udo would not give them any reason. All he said was that he was no longer interested in marrying Some members of family also joined them, and they all kept demanding for an explanation and the reason why Udo had changed his mind all of a sudden. Still, Udo gave no explanation and just kept saying that he was no longer interested in the marriage. The news about Udo's action went fast into the village. The whole village condemned Udo and called him a fool for calling off his marriage to such a jewel as They sympathized with who was so hot and angry at what Udo did. The villagers kept insulting and taunting Udo and his family about the issue for many weeks. Well, other young men were grateful that Udo had not gone ahead to marry and saw it as an opportunity for them to try their luck again. And they did. One of them succeeded. His name was Efiok. However, on the day of the dowry payment and marriage ceremony, immediately Efiok set his eyes on Efiok did the same thing Udo had done. He walked away from the whole process abruptly and also said that he was no longer interested in marrying anymore, and also did not give any reason for this. It was at this time tongues began to wag in the village, and also when they stopped taunting and insulting Udo, as the villagers were left in wonder as to why Udo and Efiok had changed their mind about marrying all of a sudden. Well, the other men in the village who were eager before to marry started losing interest, as they were worried and scared that Udo and Efiok may have discovered something unpleasant about which they were yet to share with the whole village. And so for some time, there were no suitors in father's compound to ask for her hand in marriage. Even her immediate younger sister's fiancé, who had showed interest in marrying her younger sister and was only waiting for who was the family's eldest daughter, to be married first before he would also seek for the younger sister's hand in marriage, also called off his relationship with her. According to him, until the reason behind why the two men who had wanted to marry your older sister changed their mind on the day of the wedding is known, my parents would not allow me marry you, the fiancé said to her. Well, 4 other men from 4 other different villages who were not aware about unsuccessful wedding ceremonies in the past came to marry within the space of 3 years. And just like Udo and Efiok, these men refused to go ahead with the marriage after setting their eyes on on the day of their wedding ceremony. However, before last failed wedding ceremony, someone else had come from another village also to marry her immediate younger sister, whom the fiancé had dumped, and it was a success. It was at this stage that mother could no longer keep calm and insisted that she must find a solution to her eldest daughter's issue, as she strongly believes, just like everyone in the village, that it was no ordinary. However, father was a devoted Christian who hates moving from one spiritual house to another. He had served in the church when he was a young boy and right up until he became a young man. And even after that, he still remains a steadfast and devoted Christian. In the beginning, when marriage issue started and from the time Efiok had walked away, mom had known that it was no ordinary and wanted to seek solutions from spiritual houses recommended to her by some of her friends and neighbors. But her husband would hear nothing of such. God forbids that we run to obscure places for solution. Would get married to the right man when the time comes. These men aren't the right ones for her, so they should go, father kept saying. Now, there was a young man whose name was Udak. Udak is a medical doctor who works with a non-governmental organization owned and established by a church. He is also a pastor, but practices medicine in order to treat and save people. It is the organization that has sent Udak to MM's village for a medical community service. Now, Udak had liked MM from the first day he saw her, apart from her beauty, which was the first attraction to him. Her calm nature and humility made him love her more, and he decided that he was going to marry her. But when he spoke to some few friends in the village about his intentions, they discouraged him, telling him that she was under a curse. He will only add to the number of men who ended up not going ahead with the marriage. It will all be a waste of time and efforts, so forget about it, everyone told Udak. Udak thought for months, trying to see if he should take the villagers' advice or if he should go ahead to marry MM. Then one day, while praying about the issue, he got an idea and a solution. And with that, Udak approached MM and her father for a marriage. MM, who was now tired and had given up on her situation, was reluctant for many weeks. However, seeing that Udak was insistent, she finally gave in. His eyes would be clear when whatever it was that had chased others chased him away too, MM said. On the day of the wedding ceremony, Udak told MM's parents that he was okay with not seeing his bride till the dowry payment process is completed. Usually in most African marriages, especially most places in Nigeria in recent times, before the bride's family proceeds to accept the dowry from the groom, the intended bride is called to publicly confirm that she accepts the man as her groom. In this vein, the groom and his family must also see and confirm that it is the bride that they had come for that they are being offered. So, it is during this process that MM's past intending grooms had walked out after setting their eyes on her. But now, Udak told MM's family that he does not want to see his bride until the whole process was completed. What Udak requested seemed okay to other members of the family, as they did not have issues with his exception. There had been some cases of brides not meeting or knowing their grooms until after the wedding in the olden days, and so they saw it that it was okay. However, MM's father was not okay with it. "We don't do such here. I will not accept this," he protested. His older brother Mbotidem, his friend Akpan, and other members of the family urged him to accept Udak's theme as it was not against their custom. But MM's father would not accept. This caused a mini chaos as it brought arguments amongst the families, and they started speaking on top of their voices. Now, whilst they all argued, Udak began to pray. Then MM's father suddenly felt a sharp pain on his leg and his chest and sat on the ground. The pain he felt in his chest was excruciating and unbearable. He knew the cause of the pain, and so he began to confess. Many years ago, when MM's father was just a young boy, his father had married 2 wives. MM's grandmother was the second wife, and when MM's grandfather died, his first wife took everything and left nothing for MM's grandmother and MM's father. The first wife made her co-wife and her stepson work as maids in their own husband and father's compound. Later, MM's father was able to complete his secondary school education because of the pastor of the village church then. However, his elder and half-brother, who was wealthy as a result of taking everything their late father had left for them, kept taunting him and seized every given opportunity to humiliate him. Tired of his brother's ill treatment towards him, MM's father, through an old friend, visited a juju house to make him more wealthy than his half-brother so he could deal with him in revenge. After the whole ritual process, which had made him now richer than his half-brother, MM's father was told that his first daughter is automatically dedicated as a bride to the juju god and must not be allowed to marry any other person, be it mortal or spirits, as the day he accepts dowry from another man and offer his daughter to the man, he would lose his life. Mm's father was sad when he heard this condition, as he was not happy to subject his own daughter to such ordeal. His anger and bitterness and desire to oppress his half-brother as revenge had led him there, but it was too late for him to turn back. And so, on the ninth to the day a man is to pay Mm's dowry, Mm's father would blow a colorless substance on the door to Mm's room when no one was watching or probably are asleep. The groom would see a monster instead of on the day of their marriage when they look at her, and so they all ran away. The monster usually warned them to leave quietly and say nothing, and that is why they all did not say anything. At the end of Mm's father's confession, everyone stood and opened their mouths wide in shock. They could not believe how a father could subject his daughter to that because of his greed. Mm's father pleaded that his daughter forgive him. Udak, through the power of God, led Mm's father to genuine repentance and prayed for him. And as he did, the leg and chest pain disappeared. The marriage ceremony between and Udak was cancelled that day, but held again 2 weeks later, as Udak loves so much and went ahead to marry her. Did not forgive her father immediately, but eventually did months later. Mm's father lost all his accumulated wealth, as it was from a diabolical source. Now a real and genuine Christian, he realized that he had wasted many years enjoying the devil's gifts, and so, though now old, he chose to go into farming and work hard again. The end.
I hope you enjoyed the story and have learned a thing or two from it. I would love to know. Please leave a comment. Thank you for watching and see you in our next video. Bye.